Well, hi everyone. I am so grateful to have you here with us today. We are Women Like Me, Stories in Business, and we are going to have a wonderful, actually very interesting conversation today with one of our newest writers who has just written in our newest chapter book. And I am so excited to tell you it's coming out tomorrow, which is November 29th, 2024. So if you're watching this video after November 29th, 2024, know that the book is out there and it'll be available on Amazon. So the book is called When Life Breaks You Open, Moments That Change Everything. And when we listen to this story and when you read the whole book, you're going to see that it really is the moments, just sometimes small moments, sometimes great big moments, but sometimes it's also little small moments in our life that really can change everything for us. So Denise Nickel is our newest writer in the book, and her chapter, you're going to be able to find her in chapter 7, and her title is An Uphill Run, My Journey to Find Peace and Power. Well, Denise, I appreciated you writing in the book, and I even appreciate you for even being willing to be here and talk about your story and a few other things as well with us today. So, Denise, welcome, and would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Julie. You have been such an inspiration to me. Um, you know, we met, I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, and you started uh, helping me with my business story. So that's another thing that you do. So I am a retired nurse. I worked in nursing for 22 years, 12 of that in palliative care, which was really my heart and my purpose through those years. I left nursing in 2010 and have been just home since then doing other things. So I am a grandmother to three adorable grandbabies. They live in Edmonton. I have three kids that live near me. I've been married for 35 years. And the newest thing about me is I'm a brand new Canadian citizen. I voted for the first time just this last election. So
Oh,
that has been foundational for me and for my family. I run a small business outside of my home called Energy Healing with Denise, and some of that will come through my chapter as well.
yeah. Well, thank you. Now, Denise, I didn't know that. I thought you were Canadian.
Landed immigrant for 35 years,
Wow.
with my PR card and doing all of that. But
Oh.
yeah. hmm
Well, congratulations. Congratulations. How wonderful for you. Yeah, I think I actually know a few people who were landed immigrants for many years and then eventually one day decided to get their citizenship. And I think it's easy in Canada to be just hang out as a landed immigrant, but it's sure nice to know you've got that citizenship. So, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So Denise, I would like to start with your story, talking a little bit about your early life and a little bit of inspiration. So I understand that you had lived or you moved from North Dakota. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I knew that you lived in the United States. I should have known that. I never put two and two together. Okay, so what was it like moving from North Dakota to Washington as a teenager, and how did that experience shape you?
Well, it was so interesting because um, my my parents had four children in 3 years. So I'm an identical twin. So we were very close together. My older sister Sue was only 16 months older than we were, my sister Danny and I. And they were separated while I think we were maybe 6 months old. We were farmed out to different families and farming families in North Dakota. And eventually my mom did get custody of us. So she drove to the different farms and picked us up, and we started our lives with her at about 18 months. And she eventually allowed my dad to write letters to us, and that's how we first got to know him. I met him when I was 13,
Uh-huh.
and the year that we came out to Washington, I just remember from North Dakota, there are so many trees in Washington. That was brand new, and the air was so heavy and dense. That's what I remember.
Uh-huh.
But we came into Mount Vernon High as in grade 10 or in our sophomore year, and it was life changing. It was a safe environment. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Living with my dad, making that choice. My older brother was in grade 12 or his senior year, and it was just better for mom.
Yes.
Once we all left, she actually went into treatment and got better for herself. So
Oh,
she was able to care just for herself and
yes.
got well from that point
Oh,
on.
wow. So, Randy,
Yes.
Randy. So, Randy, if I remember correctly from reading your story, was inspirational in terms of in terms of running, because running comes from it's within your story, and you, and if I remember correctly, you ran your first race, and so
Yes.
can you just maybe tell us a little bit about that? What kind of emotions were you feeling, and how did you feel when you finished it? Because that's a running is a big challenge. I mean, that's it's a lot of work.
Well, I hope you read how very naive I was and starstruck by Randy Hansen and his blue eyes. But I I thought all that there was to running was just to put one foot in front of the other. So, the longest I had ever run was 4 miles, and that was the race. So, I smile at my enthusiasm and lack of skill. and and pushing yourself beyond your limits, I think, is something that I have learned, with time, to be gentle and not push so hard. Yeah.
Right. And I guess, yeah, because running is definitely pushing us past our limits. Yeah. And I think that's a lesson out there for sure for people. It's just, um to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit, because you were in a very serious accident, and it I don't know if you were running that day or you were just sort of walking or you kind of darted, but do you want to tell us what happened?
Well, really, it was one of the first tryouts, what they would say in the States, for cross country, one of the first practices. So I was running with a group of
Oh,
people and darted into a crosswalk when there was a car coming. My vision was so tunnel vision. And that happens when you're in that flight, fight response, that, your peripheral vision lessons. And I so wanted to keep up with those people in front of me, probably running faster than my skill level allowed, that
mm,
I was only looking forward,
mm,
and
mm.
ran into an intersection. So when the car hit me, she applied the accelerator and not the brake. And that if the car would have stopped, I wouldn't have been, dragged underneath it,
Yeah.
and run over. So
Wow.
so it was,
And
in a
you,
way,
yeah.
a perfect storm that I survived. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I would just encourage anyone who's watching or listening to get the book and read Denise's story, because it is quite something what she went through in her recovery and life since then. So so you were saying in your book, excuse me, that she had a leg brace on or something like that.
Exactly, exactly. The owner of the car was the passenger, and she was driving, um, and didn't have a driver's license, which I guess you can do that 50 years ago. Um, but she was disabled, and her leg brace locked when she hit the accelerator. So she had to physically lift her leg from the accelerator to apply the brake. And that was the kind of the length of time that I was under
Yeah.
the car, being dragged as the car was moving.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. So, what do you remember about the people that supported you? As even through your recovery, because you talk about Shar and Valerie and the nurses at the hospital. So, what can you tell us about those people and how they supported you?
Well, from the very first, I the car stopped in front of a doctor's office. Not that they could do much because the car was on top of me. They couldn't really reach me, but um, and the ER nurse, I mentioned her by name. She told them not to cut my hair because here I am 16 and my life has changed forever.
Yeah.
And she refused.
Oh,
um, I mean, it just goes on from there, and my family being there, and I was just never left alone. I always had a person that was there with me. I have to say that Cher, my stepmom, she was there with me day after day through some of the
oh,
toughest, the
wow,
surgeries and the skin
wow,
grafting and all of that. Yeah,
wow.
and the nurses at Cedar Woolley United General. I actually stopped by the hospital a while back when I was writing this, and
Oh,
I spoke to the staff there, and
wow, wow,
that was part of my journey.
wow.
Hmm.
Do you, because if I remember correctly, the fire department had just recently got the Jaws of Life in the community.
Exactly, exactly. That was new equipment. May have been the first time they used it was
Wow,
to lift the car off of me so carefully. Hmm.
wow. And
Hmm.
so I don't remember reading about the fact that there was a doctor's office there. Maybe it was there, and I forgot.
It
But
wasn't. I didn't include that,
okay,
but it
okay.
was, yeah.
So did you have the doctors coming out? Were they working during that time frame? Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so you had as much as nasty a accident as it was, you did have some good support right there on scene with you.
Exactly. Exactly. I
Yeah.
really did. And that has been a theme. I hope you catch in my chapter how whenever I've reached out for support, it's always been there, which is not everyone's story, but certainly is mine.
Yeah. Yeah. So you also say that how did singing hymns help you through your pain? And if I remember correctly, you loved Amazing Grace.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, I grew up in the Lutheran church, and we went, perhaps we went most Sundays for a while, but then just Christmas and Easter and my mom's faith journey, bless her heart, did we were in the periphery of consistent going to church and learning songs at least.
Yeah.
But I had just 8 months of really going to church faithfully in Conway Lutheran Church, if anyone from Mount Vernon, um, uh, and Amazing Grace. Some of those church hymns were brand new to me in that they meant so much to me. And
Mhm.
isn't that something how I think God works in our lives, preparing me those 8 months for having a way to use my voice, you
Yes.
know, in working through the painful
Yeah.
dressing changes.
Yes.
And so Amazing Grace just was one of my anthems during that
Oh,
time. Hmm.
oh, how beautiful.
Yeah.
I lived in northern British Columbia for a number of years, and I had a hospital stint. It was nothing overly serious, but I was having a complication with a pregnancy, but everything was okay. But and that was, I can't remember the I can't remember domination for the for that little hospital, because it was a very it was very rural. Like, I'm talking rural. And so we didn't, so we had a lot of doctors that and nurses that came from outside of the area. They did a stint there, and there was a church that really helped to run it. But I remember, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I remember waking up in every morning that I was in there, and I was there for about a week, I guess, to a piano and all the doctors and the nurses singing hymns. It was
Wow.
beautiful. It was, and I remember laying there because I'd been in other hospitals in my life, and I remember laying there, and it just brought peace, and it just set the stage for all of the energy throughout the hospital. But yeah, but it just when you were talking, it clicked in my head, and I thought, oh, I forgot all about that. But it was beautiful. Oh, I got shivers even talking about it. But it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Yeah. So it can yeah, very helpful and very calming. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. And
yeah.
having the freedom to be me is
Mm,
really, the safety of that first hospital. They only had a one room burn unit and I was in it.
yeah,
But when
yeah.
I got to Seattle, boy, that really was a challenge because I didn't feel, um, I couldn't sing through dressing changes. I felt too embarrassed. So
Oh,
that was the end of that kind of that cocooning. Um, but I certainly needed the physical help once I got to Seattle.
yeah. So how long in total were you in the hospital for?
9 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, I really healed much more quickly than they anticipated when I was first injured. Yeah,
Oh, so 9 weeks is actually quick, considering
very
the
quick.
injuries
Yeah,
that you had.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. That's and you were 16 at the time?
Right. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's, and then to leave your community, and that must have been devastating, just that alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was the first time I'd ever been separated from my twin sister.
Oh,
Ever. We had never been
oh,
separated from one another. Hmm.
that that would have been, yes, doubly yes, when you need that emotional support there. And
Right.
that, yeah, that is a lot for a 16-year-old girl to deal with, for sure. So let's just talk a little bit about your father, because you talk a lot about your dad in your story. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about how he was able to support you? And I know in your story you included a little letter that he had sent to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, I think growing up was tumultuous and a fair bit of difficulty. So when I met him when I was 13, he came at Christmas time and he wore, it's funny you're wearing red. It's kind of a shout out to my dad because he wore this big red jacket and my dad and my brother, my husband, they're well over 6.5 feet tall and I might have been the first, if I recall, the first to go out to the porch to meet him. And he was my hero. Um, he could say things like "I love you,"
Oh.
and we had already, formed a bond through writing letters and writing my dad and telling him about the boys that I liked and you know, my brother listened to Alice Cooper and the music and he just received us. And
Mm,
one thing I would say about Dad and Cher, the life that they had created and that we were invited into, um, they would come up the stairs to say goodnight to us. They didn't just yell from downstairs.
yeah.
After putting yourself to bed for 13 years without much fanfare, the fact that they both came up to say goodnight to us, it was like, have I died and gone to heaven? Like I just had never experienced that before, and those types of things was very um, a nurturing, caring, safe environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it isn't it interesting that that's something that you remember? and how
Yeah.
touching it was. And I'm really glad that you spoke about it, because there might be a lot of parents yelling from the couch, "Good night, close the door," and just to take that, how it can affect your child just by taking that extra 30 seconds to go to the door and wish them a good night.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
well, thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. I think that's lovely. I want to talk a little bit about your spirituality, because you're a very spiritual woman in many different ways, and even the ways that you help other people is very, very, very spiritual as well. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about how has your faith helped you through, not just through that accident, but through your life?
Well, yeah, that is such a profound question for each of us, because I believe that, um, we have that God reaches each human on the planet, every human that's here, living this experience with the ups and downs of this human journey that we have. And I talked briefly about Earth School. I think if I expand this chapter, I will talk more about that. But um, I am a person that has seen visions and understood things, maybe from a heavenly or a other earthly perspective. So my faith journey really begins with the day I was born. I I I understood that Jesus um, breathed. We were 6 weeks premature, underdeveloped lungs. Um, he breathed in and out with me and saved my life. In those 15 minutes before my sister was born. And this isn't in the chapter, but that's where my faith journey began, as I understood. There was another instance where Jesus, in the last probably 10 years, he called me out that I was born separate from my sister. We're not just a we, that I am my own person. And that was another a moment of reckoning and understanding that
Yes.
that her and I have our separate journeys. Also a vision of when I was a year and a half old, sitting in the high chair, and um, I had a sense, maybe kind of being an old soul, that she was it. It was mom. There was no one else coming, and knowing that was part of my journey, a year and a half. And
Yeah.
then other visions. So I think I bring that to my life, to my practice. That's how God works in my life. I would say that marriage is can be a challenge, and whenever I've want to throw in the towel, there's always been someone to guide me. That we need community to call me back into marriage,
Yes.
call me back into relationship with my kids, and call me back into relationship with myself. So that is that's part of my
Yes.
faith journey.
I just love how you said we need community. We all need community,
Hmm.
and for lots of different reasons. But I think the most important reason, what you just said, we need support, and there's times where we need help and direction in our
Yeah,
life. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah, I just
exactly.
love that. The other thing and again, this, you can find this in your story, but I've known you for a while now, and I also see this in your personality as well, is gratitude.
Yeah.
How do you think that gratitude can play a role in all of our healing journeys? What does gratitude do for us? Because you're a very grateful lady.
Exactly, exactly. I have to share. What comes to mind is I was going through something difficult in the last, say, 6 months, and I just said to God, or I just said out loud, "Why is my life so hard?" And the answer was immediate, and it was, "Because you believe it is. It's
Oh,
hard
Denise, I
because
got
you
shivers. Oh my
believe it
gosh.
is hard." And I
Oh,
thought, how in my life can I understand that my life is not hard? So this gratitude comes because of community, my fellow energy practitioners, the books I'm reading, and I can literally sit on the edge of my deck with my feet on the grass and just choose to look up, to look higher, to give up those lower emotions and bring it up, bring my gaze up.
Mm.
And so I am living really in higher dimensions than I ever have. And it really started when I started to open up to a sense of spirituality that was much broader than my kind of my Western Christian model would allow. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we're almost finished, but I just from what you said, I would really like it if you were gracious enough, and I know who you are, to maybe give some advice to others who are watching this or listening who look around and go, I don't got anything. What's she talking about? My life sucks. I have nothing to be grateful for. Give some words of encouragement or tips or anything at all that could help that person.
Yes, yes, yes. And I call you then to turn off the news
Mm,
and spend time in that inner life, that inner knowing. When I have come with such a journey about the goodness of God, that God is good at all times and in all ways. This life will give you opportunities to learn and grow. But as you understand that the universe, the well-ordered universe that we live in, the cosmos, the energy is love. I would say when I'm feeling a bit low, I'll think, oh, what's the most loving memory I can think of? And I think of Gord at SeaTac Airport. I thought, I think I'm going to marry that guy. That is the most loving memory I can think of. What
oh,
is the most joyful memory I can think of? And I think of Gord holding our firstborn. What is the most peaceful memory I can think of? I think of playing backgammon with Melanie. Uh, so and then I stay in that moment. And if it
mm.
doesn't work, I think, what's the most loving memory I can think of? What's the most joyful memory I can think of? What's the most peaceful memory I can think of? And I just begin to live in that space, and life doesn't seem so hard.
Denise, thank you for that. That that helped me. I love that. And I just, yeah, we all have something. We all
Yeah.
have something that we love, something that lifted us up, good memories somewhere, even if
Yes.
it's small and short. But focus on that and yes, uh, thank you for that.
So raise your gaze. And I do,
Uh,
my website, Energy Healing with Denise. Um, you can book a 30-minute, there's an appointment that says 30 minutes, and we can walk through some of those things.
wow. Well, very helpful. Well, everybody who's watching and listening, all of Denise's contact information is going to be in the description. So if you want to chat with her or find out more about her, all of that content will be there. If you want to reach out to her, you'll be able to do that. Well, Denise, I love this conversation and I just love you. You're just such a kind and wise soul. You're very, very wise. And every time I talked with you, whether it's in person or this is our second
Yeah.
Zoom interview that we've done, I get you lift me up. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you very much, Denise. Thank you. Is there any last words you'd like to say to our listeners or our people watching on YouTube?
Grab a pen and a piece of paper and just start asking questions, and God will answer as you speak. It's an inner work.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, again, thank you very much, Denise, and thank all of you for watching this episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. Uh, of course, uh, tomorrow is November 29th, 2024, and that is when Denise's story will be out in the book. So if you want to know more or you would like to support Denise with a purchase, we will have links all over the place. And if you're watching this after November 29th, the book will be on Amazon. And the book again is called When Life Breaks You Open, Moments That Change Everything. And you know, this time together was a moment. And there was lots of really good little tidbits in there to help change me, change everybody. So thank you, Denise, for sharing that and for being with us. So we
Welcome.
will see you soon. Take care.
Okay.
Bye bye.